Hey guys, it's Jackie. Welcome back to my channel. So because I am currently in the dead heat of filming course materials for my Frankenstein class, which starts tomorrow, I'm deep in my kind of, let me grab her right here, my Frankenstein feels at the moment, which means I'm deep in my dark academic feels, which I usually am. Dark academia is one of my favorite tropes in literature. It is one of my favorite forms of the Gothic. It is one of my favorite aesthetics. I have an entire bookcase, this little guy next to my bedside table, that is just books that could be qualified as dark academia. I just have that many and I'm that preoccupied with it. So I saw going around YouTube that there is a dark academic book tag, which I thought was such an interesting subject for a book tag, and I really couldn't resist. And it's been, I think the original video is, yeah, Carolyn Marie Reeds and Emmy. They co-created it, if I'm not mistaken. So they're the first ones who did the book tag. And it just looked like a lot of fun. So dark academia, if you aren't totally familiar with it as an aesthetic, and it definitely seems to be, it's both, again, a trope that you see often in, I won't even say Western literature, but just like Western culture wholesale, and there are variations of this in Eastern culture as well, but I'm thinking specifically of its variations in Western culture. And it's become like taken off as like a kind of like aesthetic, especially on spaces like Tumblr, where there's just something kind of, it's where you present university or boarding school or academic life as both like, you know, sort of beautiful and glamorized and mysterious, but also kind of sinister, kind of Gothic, kind of off, wrong. And this is something that fascinates me. I really would like to write a paper about dark academia, and that being such a contemporary aesthetic that people are so in love with, because I think it kind of makes sense for a couple of different reasons. One, this idea of like dark academia is very, very old, I would argue. It's super old in Western culture. It's just that its roots look a little different. And what I mean when I say that is that if you look in literature, literature is just completely rife with representations of academics as being shadowy, mysterious, unethical, kind of evil, which that comes from a lot of different, I think, ideological there's a lot of different ideological motivations for that, I feel. Some of them anti-intellectual and some of them not necessarily. Some of the books I'm going to mention, I think, going through these questions are books that were written by academics. Like I myself am an academic. I'm in academia right now. I'm getting a PhD in English Lit. And the academy is, it's definitely not all rainbows and sunshine. It's kind of, it's very Gothic, I think, in its structure, and can really take a toll on your mental health. And I think sometimes really encourages toxic behaviors, and can sometimes encourage unethical behavior and unethical treatment of your fellow academics, and everything becomes such a competition. And I think that there are some really valid reasons why people inside the academy understand the academy and the university as kind of like this dark Gothic heterotopic space sometimes, that there is something to be said for dark academia. And I think that's the reason why I find dark academia so cathartic. I think that there is a very interesting acknowledgement, and I think maybe why dark academia has resurfaced so heavily right now is that the university for the millennials and Gen Z is such a complex space, right? That, again, it's the two-sided token. Again, that on the one hand, the university is a space of, it's where you go to better yourself, and it's a space of learning and education, and for a lot of us, freedom. It's the first time that we get freedom outside of our parents' house, which can be, you know, really meaningful for a lot of marginalized people, to move into a space where you finally have control over your own life and some sense of autonomy. But at the same time, I think millennials and Gen Z also understand the very fundamental flaws in the structure of the university, which is to say that it is kind of a blood-sucking parasite in and of itself, draining our finances out of us. And so it's a complex beast, right? That we love college, but at the same time we recognize that college, especially in the United States, is fundamentally flawed in a lot of ways. And so dark academia, to me at least, I think makes sense. And it especially makes sense, again, in a period where there's such a mentality, you know, this kind of conversation about class and class privilege and eat the rich and all of those things. I think it makes perfect sense why dark academia is so back in vogue. And so, again, aestheticized. So anyway, lots to chew on there. So I'm going to go ahead and start the tag. All right. So I'm going to be reading the questions. What is your favorite academia or dark movie and book? My favorite dark, I'm going to go with dark academic just because dark is so broad. Book, I guess would be Frankenstein, even though it's not my favorite dark academic novel, but just like the afterlife of Frankenstein is so interesting to me. Like I have a whole cubby in my dark academia shelf that's just like intertexts of Frankenstein or retellings of Frankenstein or spins on Frankenstein, which actually right here, these are two of my favorite recent dark academic texts, which is V.E. Schwab's Vicious. I loved this so much. It is Frankenstein meets the X-Men, and it is exactly my kind of dark academic, again, academics and their hubris and just letting their experiments become totally unethical and out of control and paying the price for it. I love stories like that. So again, Frankenstein for me is, I like that there are consequences for Victor's actions. I like the fact that Victor is such a scumbag, because he is. I don't think I hate any character in literature more than I hate Victor Frankenstein, to be honest with you. Which hilariously, again, like he's just a student. He's an undergraduate. He's not a doctor. That's what cracks me up always, is that the basic premise of Frankenstein is this undergrad who's like, I know more than my professors, and then I went and dug up some dead bodies and raised the dead. And it's just such a wild book to me. I love Vicious. I love retellings of Frankenstein. If you want a weird, dark academic book, Bunny by Mona Awad. This book, I have never read a more accurate representation of academia in my life, because this takes place in a creative writing MFA program at like an Ivy League university. Holy cow, this is so accurate and so funny. And again, the author Mona Awad is, I believe she was an MFA at Brown, I think. At Brown, and then she got a PhD in English. So like she knows, and you can tell she knows, because the jokes in this book, the searing critiques of academia, like just the self-importance of these creative writing majors when they talk about their projects, all of it was like so hauntingly familiar to me that like I kept like copy pasting bits of this book and sending them to my best friend Megan, who's also in academia right now. She's also getting her PhD, and I just was like, will you just look at this? Will you just look at this? So if you want a book that's like, this is actually what the Academy is kind of like, hilariously Bunny, which has been, kind of a divisive book because it's so surreal and strange. It's like somehow this feels the most like academia to me. Which the other funny thing is that like there are so many academics, especially my professors, who they will read something like The Secret History by Donna Tartt and be like, this is so silly. This is not at all what university is like. This isn't what professors are like. This isn't how academics behave. And I'm always like, you sure? Because this feels really familiar to me. Like maybe we're not out, murdering people and like turning into deer in the woods after an orgy or whatever, but like spiritually it feels like a lot of the ethical problems at the centers of these novels. I'm like, this feels like the Academy to me. Anyway, next question. I totally forgot to answer my favorite dark academic film. So I'm here from the future, coming back to put this in here so that I gave an answer for my dark academic film, which is Rope by Alfred Hitchcock. It's got everything. It has everything you could want in a dark academic text. It has homoeroticism. It has murder. It has shitty academics trying to justify their unethical behavior with philosophical claptrap. It's just like, all right, okay, bye. Back to the future now. All right. What dead poet would you like to have a drink with? Part of me wants to say Wilde, which again, he did write poetry. But I think I would like to talk actually with William Blake, just because what an interesting, strange man he was. How ahead of his time. He was like a Vincent van Gogh figure, you know, that it's just like, you are operating on a level that is about 150 years ahead of everyone else in your period, and I think that is always so fascinating. Just such an interesting and strange man with such fascinating progressive ideas in the late 18th and early 19th century that I think he would be really interesting to talk to. Just to sit and pick his brain, I think would be kind of fascinating. All right, number 3, what is your favorite painting and or sculpture? Sculpture is the Nike of Samothrace. I love the Nike of Samothrace. I don't know why. I think it's because she's broken, that there's something about her being broken that is just so haunting and gorgeous to me. I love when Greek statuary is broken, which I can't explain it. There's just something kind of pleasing to me about like this fissure of this like this aesthetic perfection, like this perfect aesthetic ideal, the ideal in Western culture, right? Because it always goes back to Greek statuary, and to have that fractured in some way or broken and take on some kind of new form, that always really is pleasing to me. So I love the Nike of Samothrace. My favorite painting, that's really hard. I don't know. I'd have to think. I really love Van Gogh. I've always really loved Van Gogh, which is such like a, I know, easy answer, but I do really love him. I'm going to say maybe Dante and Virgil in Hell. I really like that painting. You know, the one, like, it's this really homoerotic, strange painting where, like, they're in hell and the one guy is biting the other guy on the neck, which that painting has been used in so many, like, queer Gothic textbooks. I just find it really funny. The thing that I love about it is that, like, Dante and Virgil look, like, so scandalized, and then, like, there's that demon floating who's, like, yeah. I don't know why. Every time I see that painting, I start laughing, and I like it a lot. What is your favorite architectural marvel? Things that come to mind are Stonehenge, which I know that people say that to see it in person now is really underwhelming just because, like, you can't get anywhere near it and it's such a tourist trap, but I just find Stonehenge so interesting. Or like Angkor Wat in Cambodia, I've always found so beautiful. I would love to see the Acropolis. I'd love to see the Parthenon. I'd love to see the pyramids of Giza. Like, there's just, I don't know, there's something about just ancient architecture that is just so otherworldly to me that I think I would have more of an affective experience being in their presence, if that makes sense. What Shakespeare play would you like to be the lead in? I'm assuming you'd be like to play the lead in, because I certainly wouldn't want to be any of the leads. So I'd like to play. I guess Beatrice in Much Ado About Nothing. I just love her whole vibe. Like Beatrice is my girl. I adore her. And I definitely wouldn't want to be in any of the tragedies, or like, they'd be interesting to play. I think playing Lady Macbeth would be a lot of fun, or to play Cleopatra would be a lot of fun. But I feel like Beatrice would be, I don't know, I feel like I could embody that energy better than any other, I feel. Let's see. How many languages do you speak, and which languages would you most like to learn? I only speak English. I do speak conversational French, but that has degraded considerably since college, just because if you don't use it, you lose it. Like, I haven't had an opportunity to really speak it. Languages I would really like to learn, I would love to know Spanish. I would like to be able to read German, just because it would help with my research, since I do so much work with fairy tales. And personally, I would love to be able to speak something like Swedish or Norwegian, just because a lot of my family is originally from Scandinavia. They're from Norway and Sweden, which they're such fascinating languages. And again, I had an opportunity to go to Sweden last August, and Didn't get a chance to, I practiced a little bit of Swedish, but I didn't get a chance to practice it very often because everyone in Stockholm spoke immaculate English, which thank God, because I was sick and my brain was not going to process like how to ask for a cough syrup in Sweden at the pharmacy, that I'm just like, I don't know what I need. Please help me. What's your favorite quote? I'm going to find it just to make sure that I get it exactly right. This is such a dark academic quote too, which is embarrassing, but for some reason, like every time I see this quote, it just hits me in my aesthetic feels. It just like taps into something inside of me and helps articulate why I love things like horror and the Gothic, I feel. And it's a quote by Rainer Maria Rilke, who is a German poet. I believe it's Rilke. And it's, for beauty is nothing but the beginning of terror, which we are barely able to endure, and it amazes us so because it serenely disdains to destroy us. Every angel is terrible. And I just really like that quote because I think it really speaks to the sublime as an effective experience, and like that very thin line between being overwhelmed by beauty and terror, or being overwhelmed by the infinite and terror. And just that fine line between something that is beautiful and something that is grotesque. Like, that just, like, hits for me as someone who loves horror so much. Like, I love that quote. It just bangs a gong deep inside of me every time I see it. What fictional character's death is your ideal way to go? I think, and this is going to be such a terrible answer because we're talking about dark academia, I think Nicholas Flamel from the Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, I think that his death is very nice, right? That you got to live a very long time, and that when you were ready and could make peace with it, you just stop taking this elixir and you just go to sleep and pass. And I think that that is a really nice death. I think that that's a really peaceful death. Again, speaking of like alchemists and tampering with nature, but I do think that Nicholas Flamel, that would be a nice way to go, I think. Here's the thing, I wish that humans could live longer than we do, just so that we could accomplish more in our lives, but I wouldn't want to live forever. Like, that's kind of terrifying. And so I think Nicholas Flamel kind of just has it exactly right. What university or college would you most like to attend? I would like to attend just for a little while, just to see how it's different. Oxbridge or one of the Ivies. I wouldn't want to stay there, I don't think. I would love to see what Oxbridge or the Ivies are like, but I don't think ultimately they would be for me. It's just not my kind of education. I don't know. I'm more laid back than that. But it would be an interesting experience to see. What is your murder weapon or murder method of choice? I'd like to say the icicle that melts and doesn't leave any evidence, but I don't think I'm that slick. Let's go with a really dark academic answer, and let's just say poison. Poison sounds fun. But not like, slinking around rat poison. I wish that I could be like poison ivy and just my whole body was toxic. Or like Rappaccini's daughter, which again is kind of this proto poison ivy. That your body is toxic, and I think that is just so kind of interesting. I don't know, that's a very asexual answer, isn't it? I wish that my body was toxic, and if you touched me. But I think that, I just have always thought that was kind of, I don't know, weirdly dark and cool and interesting, and Poison Ivy was always one of my favorite villains. I'm going to sound like a total sociopath now, but I think that was a very interesting murder method of choice out of all the Batman villains. Which mythology would you most like to be a part of? I don't know. None of them really. I don't, especially not Greco-Roman mythology. Good God. Norse mythology could be cool, I guess. If I could just be like a shape-shifting weirdo, like I would enjoy that. Or actually, like Celtic mythology would be really cool. Like I think I would really enjoy being a Selkie. Or being like, again, some kind of shape-shifting fae creature who lives in the woods with twigs in my hair. I feel like I would vibe with that. If you had a PhD, what would you choose to do it on? Funnily enough, again, as you know if you follow my channel, I am earning a PhD right now. I am earning my PhD in English literature. I just took my exams in February and I'm currently in the process of writing my dissertation, and it's about queer monstrosity. And I sure am tired all the time. So hopefully it'll be worth it. But COVID-19 means all the universities are freezing their hiring for next year. So it's going to be interesting. Like, it's going to be a lot of fun. The job market was already bad. Now it's like, what job market? I laugh so I don't, weep. Okay, and the next question is, what fictional character would you die for? Literally die for? None, but figuratively, I get Remus Lupin, Adam Parrish, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Those are my boys. I don't know. They're my boys. I love them. I just love them. I have like a certain pre-adolescent attachment to especially Obi-Wan Kenobi and Remus Lupin. Adam Parrish is just baby. Like, he just got my heart immediately. I just adore him. But those are my boys. Like, I love. And again, I'd probably die for like any of the Batman rogues. Like, speaking of dark academics, I love the Batman villains, you guys. I love them so much. The Joker can choke, I don't care. Like, unless he's kissing Batman, I'm not interested, like, at all. But the Joker can choke. But the rest of them, I love them so much. All right, rapid fire round. Pick one. I'm gonna actually try to do this rapid fire because this video is already way too long. Leather bound or cloth bound? Cloth, I think. Yeah, cloth. Dog earing pages or highlighting pages? Dog earing pages. I dog ear all the time. I've been better about it, but I don't. I like annotating books, but I don't like highlighting books. So I'm gonna go dog earing. Sculptures or paintings? Paintings. I had a harder time picking a favorite painting, and I'm still not really satisfied with my answer. Piano or violin? Violin. Films or theater? Film. I love movies. I love movies so much. Poetry or prose? Prose. Like, just prose. Museums or bookshops? Bookshops, because I can take things home. I love museums so much, though. That one really hurts. The smell of books or the smell of coffee/tea? I'm gonna go with the smell of coffee, just because I love the smell of books, but I also have allergies, and sometimes, like, bookshops smell really good, but they aggravate my sinuses. The dust. So, again, the smell of books is a great smell, but it comes with a cost. Okay, fountain pen or typewriter? Typewriter. I really miss my typewriter. I do have a typewriter, but it's in the garage at my parents' house because there was no place to put it in my apartment here at grad school. Okay, new or used books? That one's really tough. I think I'm going to go with new books, just because I love the way a new book feels in your hands and the way it smells and how crisp all the lines are and like the sound of the spine when you crack it. Just, oh, it's so good. And also, like, new books, authors get money. Which, the great thing about used books is that if there is a book you want or need, for whatever reason that you want to read this, or need to read it for, like, class or what have you, but you don't want to give that writer any money, used books are the way to go, which is how I have a copy of Ender's Game, because God forbid I give Orson Scott Card $1 pink out of my wallet. Okay, so that is all of the questions. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. And again, if you enjoy book tags, let me know some more. I really like doing book tags, and I haven't done enough of them, I don't think. So recommend some to me if you would like. And definitely check this tag out. I think if you're into dark academia, this is fun. These were really difficult questions, actually. Anyway, so I will see you guys next time. Again, it's going to be, I think, a little bit of a slow upload schedule for the next couple of weeks, which is why I've been getting so much uploaded this week, just because I start teaching tomorrow online, and it's going to be, I think, really interesting. Hope they like Frankenstein. Ugh. If not, it's going to be a blast and a half, let me tell you. All right, so anyway, see you guys later. Bye.